we stopped talking about the War Master CD last time, and my question is, why haven't you continued the World Eater and Cenotaph sequel on For Victory? Yes, on For Victory.
Just for Victory, what, and then returned it again on Mercenary? What? Just for the Victory album? We just probably didn't have the song that we thought should join on, so we didn't do it. And then obviously on Mercenary we found the one again to link onto that.
Some phrases in the songs, in the lyrics of the songs World Eater and Cenotaph are exactly the same. Alone You Stand, the final parody and something like that. Also in other lyrics certain lines reappear. Is that due to no new ideas, or is it perhaps a trademark of Bolt Thrower?
A trademark, and sort of relinking some songs back to others and styles and days past. We don't, for us, material, we had tons, tons and tons, but we only really use what we want to use.
Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about your typical songwriting process.
Probably first the riff, the main riff, and then the structure, and then the basis of the drum beat to the structure, and then solo sections, and then we eventually put the lyrics on it, and at that point we work out whether we scrap it or whether we keep it. If the lyrics basically don't lock the song together, we scrap. Maybe even take the best part of that song and rework it again. And then we usually write probably the first song for an album to the 10th song, and then once we've got to the 10th we go back to the beginning again and start again and go through it maybe 2 more times completely, and then maybe you write a touch more in the studio if we think it needs to be changed. Basically the same process on every album.
So this process has never changed from the first album, or have there been any changes of priorities?
No, pretty much the same. Obviously even basically Carl on For Victory, Mercenary, and even Fourth Crusade, a lot of other people are putting ideas in for song titles and lyrical ideas, just generally in them days as well. So we've always sort of co-wrote with Carl anyway, the same as we did Mercenary. So it's all been pretty similar, exactly the way it's always been, which we prefer.
Perhaps we talk a little bit about the video clips you did, and you give us your comments on that. We start with the Cenotaph.
Piece of shit. The sort of thing that happens when you haven't got hands-on control of what's happening. Someone videoed it, probably edited it without the band being there, and turned out a piece of shit. Okay.
You did a video for the Fourth Crusade, when I'm right?
Yeah, cheap. Chopped in from a live gig, looped too much, and not a good representation of the band. So we never did another.
You were supposed to do videos for Victory and Forever Fallen, but you never did them. Why?
Yeah, we pulled it the day before. We lost about 20,000 marks pulling it that day. It just decided at that point that the band didn't want anything false, and really didn't want to be standing there miming. It's a real band and we like real situations, and standing there like a bunch of dickheads isn't a good idea for our band. Do you know what I mean? Or going for it in some studio with some lights on you. The reason we chopped Fourth Crusade as a live gig, at least it was sort of real, although it was chopped over an actual CD track. But miming and all the other bullshit that goes with videos hasn't really interested us to this point. We don't know if we'll do one in the future. Who knows? But it doesn't look like it.
Metal Blade isn't interested into doing a video clip with you?
We choose what comes out.
How would the perfect Bolt Thrower video look like? If you...
Good question. I wouldn't know because I haven't done it. I'd have to see it first to go, yes, that's the one. You know what I mean? Wouldn't know. Because we've never really sort of thought about it or cared about it either. After the first 2 that we didn't like, we just decided, don't bother.
Think about any video. What is your idol maybe? What do you think, oh, that's maybe a kind of video I like? And
I like, not a lot. They're usually some bullshit, everyone going for it, looking great, you know what I mean, in a nice set. and a lot of money pumped in. Who cares? Who cares?
Okay, next point are your former members. Perhaps you can tell us about the reason why you split with them, and perhaps you can tell us a little bit about them. We start with Alan West.
Alan West, we basically did a radio session with him, first one in England, John Peel session, and he thought probably at that time the band was starting to get too serious. We'd just got offered a record contract for the first album from Vinyl Solution. Alan West, he thought the band was getting too serious at that time. We'd done the radio session, we'd just been offered the album basically the next day, and he thought at that point it's getting too serious and he didn't really want to do it anymore. So we auditioned a few singers, but in the end we took our driver, which was Carl at the time. Carl had probably been to every gig we'd done at that point, driving the band, so he was sort of a personal friend anyway, and we didn't want to just put a band together of people that could play. We wanted to put sort of friends together, you know what I mean, with trust and sort of loyal at that point. So that's why Carl was drafted in. He wasn't the best singer on the day, make no mistake, but he was a friend, and that was good enough. And we knew that he'd improve over the years. Maybe the In Battle, he didn't actually write the album, so he was singing someone else's lyrics and looking for his vocal style, which he probably didn't find to War Master, but you know what I mean.
Okay, another former member is someone who is called Alex. He is mentioned in the thanks list of In Battle There Is No Law. I don't know his last name.
Not the Alex we've got on drums at the moment. He basically played one gig with us and then didn't turn up to the demo. No, bass player. He replaced me originally. I used to play bass originally in Bolt Thrower when we were a 4-piece, and then I moved on to guitar. We tried Alex out, it didn't work, and we brought Joe in.
Andy Whale is the next one.
Andy and Carl left at the same time, so I can lump them in together basically. We were out on tour in America, and it was one of the shittest ever. For us, we'd got a pretty bad reputation over there of pulling tours, which we hadn't obviously, and it was hard to try and get gigs, so we went down to sort of New York and New Jersey just to have a look round to prove that we would turn up to play, but they were shit gigs, and obviously the band was suffering because of it, and it looked like not the end, but things were closing in. And Carl and Whale had started doing a side project, and we don't allow that within Bolt Thrower. No side projects, no cover versions, there are rules to the game. So they were both doing a side band trying to keep it quiet. They were also at that point getting into different music styles, Soundgarden, stuff like that, something that we're not into personally. So instead of it was a two-way split. Me, myself, Baz, Joe, Carl and Whale. Pretty simple. And it worked out that they left basically on that American tour, flew home. Obviously we stayed over for a few more days, sold off the back line, came back ourselves, and then just sort of worked out what we were going to do over the next few months. Within about 2 months we'd started putting it back together again.
Your new drummer has been Martin Kearns. He left.
He got kicked out, the same as Martin van Drunen. Kiddy was a slacker. It was basically, at the point that we got him in, he was 17, 18, he was young, and basically probably got too much handed on a plate to him. Something he, to be personally honest, he never earned the position. He got handed it. And then, but if you get handed a position like that, you have to step up, we call it, into that, and he didn't, slacked off, started getting sloppy on coming to rehearsals and sacked him, pretty basically.
Yes, Martin van Drunen left.
Martin van Drunen was kicked out. With Martin, he'd been in quite a lot of bands before, and although we got on with him good, we never really trusted him, or trusted it that he was in Bolt Thrower for Bolt Thrower more to advance his own career, and we don't like that idea. We'd been offered 2 festivals in Germany, Full Force, which are the promoters are friends of the band. We always play with the same promoters every time we come to Germany, and we were going to play that one and a smaller one on the border that we were going to use as a pre-production warm-up to play Full Force, but about 2 weeks before the tour, Martin said he didn't want to play the gigs. He'd got alopecia about 9 months before, where his hair started falling out, And he was worried about going on stage without long hair, as he's always been a metal kid. And we'd sort of explained to him that we don't really give a shit what people look like. You've just got to be 100% dedicated and 100% loyal, and that's enough. But he thought he couldn't go on stage and play with sort of his hair falling out, which to us was bullshit. Like, if you're into it, you're into it. It doesn't matter whether you got long hair or short hair. You know what I mean? So at that point, he was booted out, and we pulled the first festival and got Dave Ingram out of Benediction, who was a friend of ours at the time, to stand in for Full Force. No, the day he was sacked was the last time we spoke to him.
Do there exist any recordings with him?
No, and it was unlikely that there were going to be any ever either. We pulled him in basically, would say, as a stopgap to fill the gap until we could find more of a vocalist that we were looking for. At that point, we'd got the album out for Victory with no singer, and we wanted to tour. Albums are great, and it's fun doing albums, but the band's a real band, and they're into playing live. That's what they want to do. They want to play shows, they want to play gigs. Even though we take a lot of time to sort of do the things we do, as we sort of organise it and arrange everything around it, it takes a long time for us to do stuff, recording-wise, as well as tours. So that's why there's usually a big gap between releases and tours. A lot of people probably thought that we'd split up. I even heard that rumour myself. Do you know what I mean? But for us, if we're not touring or recording, we're just planning what we're doing next.
Okay. With Joe, having a woman in the band is something special in metal, or perhaps in death metal, but you never used that fact for any promotional, for any promotion. You just manage this fact with the normality it deserves, I think.
Yeah, of course. For us, it was the gender really didn't matter to the capabilities of the musician we were looking for. As a bass player, probably within our band, she's probably the second best musician, and she's got a really excellent tune here, and you could basically play her a song, and within about 2 minutes she could work it out, whatever the band was. She can tell note to that sounds like that. So really she learnt the War Master, well, probably the first full set to tour in about 7 days, like. So that's what we were looking for, someone that was good and would be totally dedicated to our band, which obviously she has been. That's why she's been in all these years. So it was more a requirement of loyalty and dedication than gender. And really, as far as promotion, we see a lot of bands using females within it or female dancers to promote the music. To us, that's just bullshit. We don't usually like individual photos either, and we don't like one person to be pushed ahead of everyone else. In this, it's a straight deal. All the band are equal. So there's no sort of single photo sessions or where she's dressed up in nice clothes on her own in some promo shot. That's bullshit. Like, pretty simply, it's sort of everyone's equal to everyone else, but the band is bigger than everyone.
Our program is called What's Metal? What is metal for you?
Pleasure. Just pleasure. It's a pleasure to play. It's a pleasure to people to come to the gigs. You never know. For us, we release an album or we tour, but who knows if anyone comes? You never know. Like, you could sell no albums and no one come to the gigs. That's the sort of band it is. When we don't play for guarantees either, we usually play for a percentage of the door. So that means if no one comes, we don't get paid. But hey, that suits us. The only thing we were really bothered about or scared about is probably mediocrity, being mediocre. You know what I mean? All right. What was Bolt Thrower like tonight? All right. That's the only thing we worry about. I like to be fucking killer or shit. Either way suits me, but not okay. You know what I mean? Okay. Shit's better. You know what I mean?
And talking about shit, perhaps we come back to Earache Records. How would you judge their work for you nowadays?
If I look back, you're walking along the street and you step in some dog shit and you look on the bottom of your shoe and you find earache. Do you know what I mean? Pretty simply, for us, Bolt Thrower was never a real priority for Earache Records. We were probably a lower priority on the label. A lot of the money and promotion and other stuff went into the other bands. Morbid, Carcass, Napalm, you pick it. And he never really he was never probably a real fan of Bolt Thrower Dig. Carcass was his favourite music band. Napalm started his label. Morbid Angel was his first American sign-in. But Bolt Thrower, we thought in the end was probably signed so we wouldn't be competitive. We're signed onto that label and he can restrict stuff and hold us back, which in the later days he did. In the For Victory tour and the tours before, he didn't even know they were on. So he'd put the album out, he wouldn't promote it, he wouldn't do nothing for it. He'd be thinking we were sitting at home and we'd be touring America. Like, he just didn't know what our band did because we had no ties to that label. We thought it was a piece of shit for a long time. And really, in the end, we got kicked off. And it took us a year and a half to be. You know what I mean? Because although it's an independent label, the contracts are major. You're talking 40 pages of contract. You know what I mean? And you know, with all the bullshit in there and that, it was tight. And the only way to get off a label like that is to be kicked off. So treating them like shit for a year and a half basically got us kicked off. Then they faxed us, and then we said we wanted it in a letter, dated. And as soon as we were clear, Metal Blade was already in the bag. We'd already talked to Metal Blade about a new deal, everything else. So we knew all we had to do was ditch Earache clear, sign to a new label, which we know was going to be 100 times better than the one we're on. For us now, we're on a record label. In the past, we were on Earache. I wouldn't have put that in a term with record label. Do you know what I mean?
If you look back at the metal scene, at the death metal scene for the past 10 years, what do you think has changed?
I don't really I'm not really up on what's going on. However, and whatever. For us, with all the tags and everything else, when we first started playing, there wasn't really a scene for death metal or any sort of music style like that. There was no audience. There was just a few bands just playing what they wanted to play, probably being influenced by some of the earlier bands.
I think you cannot live on the money you earn with Bolt Thrower. What do you do besides Bolt Thrower, and what are the other band members doing?
We live on Bolt Thrower here and there, of course. Like, sometimes I've had a 5-year stint, 2-year, just depends. Depends what we're doing, what we're releasing, on when we're touring. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it isn't. That's just the way it is. Like, but we come to accept that. Sometimes you can live for years on it, but you take it as it comes.
Okay, some more questions to Mercenary. There is a song on the record called Sixth Chapter. Has it something to do that this is your 6th record?
Of course, pretty blatant, that one. Yeah, of course, like, and it is only the 6th, meaning there will be a 7th and an 8th.
In the booklet, the lyrics are printed on pages that show something like a dagger or stuff like that. The background of the 6th chapter reminds me of a peace sign. Is that right?
Yeah. But if you look at the head symbol of Bolt Thrower, that's got a sort of warlike CND symbol on the back of that too. The horned head. Our symbol, our horned head, well, that's got the CND symbol on that too. It's like enforced union of different things. So on the back page of 6th chapter, it's like a peace symbol enforced with a sort of like more of a dagger, a war image, which I quite like the concept of. Enforced union of two opposites. Yeah.
On the Digipack version, there is a bonus song. I don't know how this song is called, Disciples of War or Infiltrator?
Infiltrator.
It's also the bonus song on the Japanese version, is that right?
Well, yeah, we weren't really happy about that. Every time you release a record, the Japanese want more tracks. Why the fuck should they have them? Pretty simply, do you know what I mean? So for us, not to legitimize it, but so we could release it, we just basically put it on the Digipack and didn't name it. So the Japanese market think they've got something special, but you can buy it in Germany. Do you know what I mean? No problem. It's for us, it seems stupid that they should want extra tracks or need extra tracks, where if they have extra, why shouldn't everyone else? Who the fuck are they? Pretty simply, you know what I mean? So they don't obviously know it's on there, and it's track 25 on the CD.
How has the topic war became such an image of Bolt Thrower? Who is responsible for it?
Probably myself and Carl. Everyone was into reading past history and stuff like that. Just generally, and I've got basically a lot of relations that are in the army. Brother, my dad was, uncle. So it's always something that's interested me anyway. History, mistakes, just generally reading a back history about it. And I know Carl was as well at that time, so it worked really good together. Probably at the start it was going to look to be sort of slightly satanic, like, but wasn't. And obviously didn't come like that, so we were pretty happy with that.
So every song on the last few records describes war in every manner, I think. One exception is the song Ritual, is that right?
Yeah, pretty much. There's a few different ones, but we also see them quite multi-leveled. You can read them as war, but you can read them as everyday life. It depends how much you read into it. But you're also looking for people with individual thought to take their own things from it. Do you know what I mean? It's easy to go, this is this and that is that, but that's just ramming down people's throat. People are going to basically read something, translate it into the way they see it anyway. So the meanings that you put behind it are not necessarily going to be those that you originally thought. But that's free thought, and that's what's important.
So you never thought about discussing some certain wars in your lyrics or promote certain opinions?
No, politics and war don't mix, I don't think. They never did.
Do you think that the world could exist without wars?
No, it's probably too inbred into human nature, I'd say. Let's face it, probably thousands of years ago they were doing it with clubs. Now they do it with missiles, but it's the same thing. Still killing.
Okay, coming to the end slowly. Some special questions. Do you know that there exist different versions of the Peel Session CD?
Yeah, there's two. There's like an album version and a 12-inch version. Basically, the first one was released on a 12-inch, and then it come about that we did 2 more sessions after that, so all 3 were released together. But that's something that they asked if they could put out, and at that time we'd probably only put In Battle out, and we weren't really happy with that. It was produced us without us being there, and we really didn't like the production on In Battle. In Battle, basically, as an album, was a lot better than it actually come out as. Some of the songs and some of the actual structuring were pretty good, but the production's really shitty. And from that point then on, we were always there.
The CD version has been released with 2 different covers. One in purple with black letters on white background, and another one with a black cover and golden letter.
Yeah. And one's probably more silver and black, and one's gold and black.
And also they are circulating some copies, some misprints of these Peel sessions containing jazz music.
I could believe it. I've got a War Master CD with the Grease soundtrack on it. You know Grease? Yeah, full CD, printed, everything. War Master, Grease soundtrack. It's one of them things where they're probably in the factory and they're running it along, and you know John Travolta and Olivia Newton-John are coming up, and they've just crossed it where the wrong music's gone on with the wrong pressing. But that's dickheads printing for you. That's Earache. That's Earache.
Okay, Carl appeared on the Peel session of a band called Doom. What can you tell us about that?
Friends of his from Brum. Basically friends of his from Birmingham, so he probably went down to do that. But he probably did some backing stuff on some of the Benediction stuff too. But that's because they were just obviously friends of his. It's not so much that he was trying to up his career or stuff like that, because obviously they were smaller bands, but just because he knew them and went down for a laugh, probably just to take drugs in the studio, I imagine. You know what I mean?
Is it right that Barry appears on the Grind Bastard album of Benediction for some backing vocals?
Yeah, the same thing. Down the pub, went down with them.
Do you know if any bands covered some Bolt Thrower tunes during their career?
Quite a few. I don't know the names of the bands offhand, but I have heard some bits and pieces here and there.
You know the Necrony cover of Cenotaph?
Yeah, the Cenotaph, and there's a couple of others as well, like, which I think is pretty stupid, really. You know what I mean? Because they're just wasting their time. They should be playing their own music. Would be better for everyone. Do you know what I mean? Not that it's not a compliment, because it is, but they'd be better off not wasting their time working at our stuff and just playing their own music. Because surely that's what every band wants to do, play their own music. No, I never will. I don't like it. I think that's bullshit, like. Because whatever you do and however good it is, you're always going to like the original, because it's the original. It don't matter whether it was cheaper production or shittier sound. The original is the original, and everything else is an also-ran. Doesn't matter.
Do you know that the band Crimson Midwinter used your Eye of Chaos design for their cover of their last record?
Yeah, I'd seen it. I didn't know what the name was personally, because it's a name that I would have forgotten straight away anyway, but I saw that they had used that symbol, yeah. But Sepultura had, after we did Realm for Chaos AD, so it's something that people are bound to. It's just who had it first.
There are some misprints too from the Fourth Crusade record circulating in the US, and the fourth song has something like a mistake in it. Some seconds are repeated over and over again, so the fourth song is 20 minutes too long, 20 seconds.
Oh yeah, 20 seconds too long, yeah. I'd say Earache. Of course, like, always there when there's fucking up to be done. Probably cheap mastering. Well, they probably used to go into really classy mastering places to master the records up, but nowadays it's all done on computer upstairs. Obviously the record labels got smaller and less money's come in, and they haven't really got any bands that are really anyone's interested in anymore. I think they tried to break too much into mainstream music with stuff like Dub War. That was one of the reasons why we wanted to get off. They started to go down different channels, techno, house music, Dub War more like sort of police, commercial stuff, trying to look for chart music when really they didn't know anything about it. And should have, if they'd have wanted to do that, maybe done it on a subsidiary, not on an Earache label, because we think that's just fucking people. Because people expect a certain sound really from a label. If like Earache, you would expect it to be heavy. If it's some techno or house music, that's bullshit.
Okay, and last question. I heard that you got something like a present by some Holland guys who did a tribute BOLT THROWER cassette under the moniker of BOLT THROWER.
Never heard of it.
I thought it was something like a Christmas present for you. It's called Under the Sign of the Black Horse. No? Perhaps someone of you have got it. So
none of us have got it. None of us have heard of it or seen it. Never heard of it. Right.
Must have been at the War Master times or so. The songs were called Through the Eye of the Jap and Dwarf in Torment. So you never heard it? Okay. I've seen the cover of that one in the internet.
Never heard of any of it. No.
Yeah. Any last comments?
Just the people that have supported our band over the years. Thanks for your support.